At first glance, some people seem absolutely harmless. They present themselves with kindness, sweetness, and a captivating charm. In the beginning, they show empathy, take genuine interest in your stories, and seem to be exactly the kind of presence anyone would wish to have nearby. Their gestures are warm, their words are comforting, and they radiate the image of the perfect companion. But as time goes by and you share more moments with them, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift begins to occur. Slowly, the friendly mask starts to crumble. A different, heavier energy starts leaking out, a presence that feels unsettling, even if you can't explain why. It's as if the real essence of that person is slowly surfacing. Without even realizing it, you find yourself emotionally entangled, caught in an invisible web. This individual, who once seemed so welcoming, starts subtly manipulating your emotions, sapping your vital energy, and disturbing your inner balance. Even worse, they may slowly lead you to doubt your own perceptions, making you question what you feel and see. In extreme cases, if you're not attentive and prepared, you can find yourself trapped in a spiral of confusion and emotional suffering that is very difficult to escape. Breaking free demands clarity, inner strength, and a sharp sense of self-awareness. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist, studied this phenomenon deeply and referred to it as an encounter with the shadow, the hidden, darker aspects of human nature that sometimes disguise themselves under a veil of kindness and empathy. The signs of shadow contact are always there. They are quiet, almost silent, but incredibly powerful if you know how to spot them. They manifest in various ways: a vague discomfort, a subtle tightening in your stomach, a sudden emotional shift with no apparent reason. Your energetic field reacts before your conscious mind understands. These sensations are crucial warnings from your unconscious, hinting that something isn't right, and they deserve your full attention. More important than just noticing these signals is knowing how to protect yourself before it's too late. Staying until the end of this exploration might be one of the wisest decisions you'll make today, because learning to defend your emotional integrity is one of the most powerful tools for preserving your mental and spiritual health when facing toxic energies like these. Energy doesn't lie, even when words and smiles do. When someone gives you a strange, unsettling feeling, even while acting politely, believe what your body is telling you. Trust the unspoken before you trust the spoken. By the way, I'd love to know, have you ever felt something like this? If so, comment yes below if you've ever experienced that strange, inexplicable energy from someone. It's more common than you might think. Perhaps you've met someone who, on paper, seemed perfectly fine. They said all the right things, behaved politely, smiled at the right moments. Yet deep inside, you felt tension, a knot in your stomach, a tightness in your chest. They didn't insult you, didn't behave rudely, didn't act suspiciously. But there was something, maybe in their eyes, their tone, or the way they carried themselves, that made you feel uneasy. And this is where many people make a crucial mistake. They ignore these internal signals. The rational mind kicks in with excuses. I shouldn't judge. Maybe I'm being unfair. I'm probably just overreacting. You dismiss the discomfort because you can't find logical evidence. After all, there's no clear reason to distrust the person, but your unconscious already knows. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious mind perceives reality far faster and deeper than our rational mind can interpret. He referred to this immense, hidden knowledge as the collective unconscious, a vast storehouse of wisdom inherited through generations, allowing us to detect dangers even when we cannot consciously explain them. In other words, your intuition is not superstition. It's not paranoia. It's a survival mechanism, a subtle internal radar alerting you when something doesn't align with your well-being. I want to share a personal story with you. Some time ago, a close friend introduced me to someone new. This person was polite, Charming, always smiling. Their conversations were pleasant and they seemed genuinely kind. But from the very first meeting, my body reacted. My stomach tightened slightly. My breathing grew shallow. My chest felt heavy. I brushed it off. After all, there was no evidence to distrust them. They were friendly, weren't they? But over time, the truth revealed itself. Behind the facade of kindness was manipulation, subtle power plays, and a constant undercurrent of emotional control. My instincts had been correct all along. I just chose to ignore them. That experience taught me one of the most important lessons of my life. Energy never lies. What deceives us is our own decision to rationalize away what we feel deep inside. Modern neuroscience confirms that intuition is a real form of unconscious knowledge. Our brain is constantly analyzing micro-expressions, body language, vocal tones, and other tiny, almost invisible signals that we don't consciously notice, but store deep within our subconscious mind. When you meet someone and instantly feel something odd, it's not just a hunch. Your unconscious picked up on something real, a mismatch, a subtle inconsistency, a hidden threat. Maybe it was a forced smile, a fleeting expression of contempt, a mismatched tone of voice. But because your rational mind can't process it fast enough, all you get is that vague feeling we call intuition. The problem is, most people ignore these warning signals. They demand a logical explanation, and when they can't find one, they choose to trust the surface instead of the deeper truth. This is a mistake that can cost you dearly, emotionally, psychologically, even spiritually. Many people ask, how do I know if what I'm feeling is true intuition and not just fear or paranoia? That's a brilliant question. And there's a clear difference. True intuition is subtle but steady. It's a quiet feeling that doesn't overwhelm you but persists over time. Every time you see that person, the unease grows stronger, not weaker. Paranoia, on the other hand, is loud, chaotic, and unstable. It causes sudden bursts of suspicion toward many people, fluctuating wildly and fueled by inner fear, not real external signals. Carl Jung often said, "The unconscious knows before the conscious." Mind can understand. When you feel that inexplicable discomfort around someone, don't ignore it. Don't rationalize it away. That small sensation, that tiny inner voice, may be the only warning you get before you become entangled with someone who could destabilize your life in ways you can't yet imagine. And worse still, some people don't just give off strange energy. They actively drain yours, without you even realizing it. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next, because understanding how certain individuals silently siphon off your energy, your clarity, your joy, your emotional balance, is key to protecting your peace and preserving your power. Have you ever spent time with someone and left feeling exhausted, anxious, or strangely drained? Even if the conversation seemed completely normal, that sensation is not random. You've just encountered what Jungian psychology might call an unconscious manipulator, someone whose shadow aspects operate subtly, quietly, beneath the surface, pulling at your energy without your awareness. These individuals rarely show their true face openly. They don't attack you directly. Instead, they create an emotional atmosphere where you constantly doubt yourself, where you feel obligated to please, where your emotions are constantly reacting to theirs. It happens in small ways. They offer a compliment that somehow leaves you feeling worse about yourself. They share a story that makes you feel guilty or responsible for their emotions. They subtly imply you owe them something, your time, your loyalty, your support, without ever saying it outright. This emotional draining is like a slow leak. It's not violent, it's not aggressive, it's quiet, gradual, and often invisible, until it's too late. And by the time you notice how tired, anxious, or confused you've become, the roots have already grown deep. Carl Jung warned that the unconscious aspects of human beings, especially those we deny or hide, have an incredible power to project themselves onto others. In simple terms, when a person refuses to acknowledge their own darkness, their insecurities, their anger, their need for control, those energies don't just vanish. Instead, they seep out through manipulation, guilt-tripping, passive aggression, or emotional dependency. This is why it's so dangerous to ignore your inner discomfort. When you sense something is off, even if you can't explain it logically, your unconscious is detecting these hidden dynamics at play. One of the most subtle ways this energy drain happens is through what Jung called emotional contagion. Without a word being spoken, you begin to mirror the unspoken emotions of the other person. If they are anxious, you feel anxious. If they are angry underneath, you feel irritated without knowing why. If they are secretly sad, you feel weighed down even if the conversation was cheerful on the surface. This is not your fault. It's simply how human beings are wired. We are emotional creatures, and our unconscious minds are constantly reading and responding to the emotional fields of those around us. When you're dealing with someone whose unconscious is filled with unprocessed shadow material, you end up carrying emotional weight that isn't yours. You start questioning yourself, doubting your instincts, and losing clarity about what you truly feel and believe. Over time, prolonged exposure to this emotional manipulation can have severe consequences. You lose trust in your own intuition. You feel chronically exhausted. No matter how much you rest, your self-esteem begins to erode. You feel responsible for someone else's happiness or emotional state. You second-guess your decisions constantly. You become entangled in emotional dramas that were never yours to begin with, and perhaps most dangerously, you may begin to lose sight of who you are. This is why learning to recognize emotional manipulation, and more importantly, learning how to protect yourself energetically, is not just a nice skill to have. It's essential for maintaining your psychological health and spiritual integrity. It's not about becoming paranoid or distrusting everyone you meet. It's about developing a quiet, unshakable connection to your own emotional center. A core of self-awareness that allows you to feel when something is out of alignment, even if everyone else is smiling and pretending everything is fine. Jung believed that one of the most important tasks of adulthood is the integration of the shadow, the conscious acknowledgement and acceptance of our own darker impulses and fears. Because when we integrate our own shadows, we are far less likely to be manipulated by the shadows of others. When you know your vulnerabilities, when you see your own needs clearly, you are much harder to control. You no longer fall for guilt trips because you recognize your own boundaries. You no longer mirror someone else's anxiety because you've learned to anchor yourself in your own emotional truth. One of the most powerful protections against unconscious energy drains is the simple but profound practice of emotional sovereignty. The understanding that your feelings, your thoughts, and your energy are yours and yours alone to manage. When you feel discomfort around someone, you don't need to justify it. You don't owe them endless explanations or emotional labor. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to say no, even if it confuses or disappoints others. The people who genuinely respect and care for you will honor your boundaries. The ones who seek to drain you will resent them, and in that reaction, you will see the truth that words could never reveal. Let's be very clear, setting energetic boundaries is not cruelty, it's self-respect. Some people, even with the best intentions, carry unhealed wounds that bleed into everyone they touch. Others, more dangerously, consciously or unconsciously, seek to maintain power over others by keeping them emotionally entangled and dependent. Neither case changes your right and your responsibility to protect your space, your heart, and your mental clarity. The more you respect your emotional boundaries, the clearer your intuition becomes. The more you listen to your internal signals, the stronger your personal energy field grows. The stronger your energy field, the less susceptible you are to unconscious manipulation from others. This is not about living in fear, it's about living awake. It's about recognizing that while most people mean well, not everyone is safe for your spirit. And it's about remembering that you are not here to carry the unresolved emotional baggage of others. You are here to walk your own path, whole, clear, and free. In the next part, we will go even deeper. You'll learn to recognize the specific behavioral patterns, the hidden psychological red flags that reveal when someone is subtly trying to control or manipulate your emotions, because protecting your energy is only the first step. Understanding how manipulation operates is how you ensure that you never get trapped again. In many cases, people who drain your energy or manipulate your emotions don't do it openly. They don't show up waving obvious red flags, shouting insults, or making clear threats. More often, their tactics are subtle, almost invisible, and precisely for that reason, extremely dangerous. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious manifests symbolically and indirectly. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to control you," the manipulator unconsciously crafts behavior patterns that guilt you, confuse you, or push you emotionally without ever stating it outright. Recognizing these invisible patterns is critical for maintaining your emotional freedom. So what are the silent signs you should watch out for? One of the first is emotional reversal. These individuals have a way of making you feel guilty, uncertain, or even ashamed without ever raising their voice. You can start a conversation feeling confident and leave feeling like you're selfish, ungrateful, or heartless, even though logically you know you've done nothing wrong. The reversal happens so subtly you barely notice it. They might say things like, "I only wanted the best for you. If you really cared, you'd do this for me. I'm not angry, just disappointed." The goal isn't direct communication. It's to create in you a sense of emotional debt or moral obligation without having to ask for it openly. Another major sign is emotional gaslighting, an unconscious or sometimes deliberate tactic where the person denies your experiences, feelings, or perceptions. You might say, "That hurt me," and they'll respond, "You're overreacting, you're too sensitive, or that never happened, you're imagining things." Over time, you start doubting your own memory, your own feelings, your own sense of reality. It's like having your internal compass scrambled, and you find yourself leaning on the manipulator to tell you what's real. This kind of manipulation is devastating because it cuts you off from your greatest guide, your own inner truth. And because it often unfolds gradually, you might not even realize it's happening until the damage runs deep. Another common behavior is chronic victimization. The manipulator consistently presents themselves as a victim of their boss, their family, society, even their own friends. There's always a story where they've been wronged, misunderstood, or betrayed. At first, you feel sympathy. It's human nature to want to help someone who's hurting. But over time, you realize nothing ever changes. They don't seek solutions. They seek attention, emotional caretaking, and excuses for their behavior. If you try to set boundaries, you're accused of being cold, selfish, or cruel. The emotional manipulation deepens. You feel guilty for trying to protect yourself. Another tactic is false generosity. Manipulators often offer help, gifts, or support. But those gifts come with invisible strings attached. Eventually you hear, "After everything I've done for you, I was there when no one else was. You owe me." What seemed like kindness turns into a psychological debt, a subtle tool for control. These patterns aren't obvious at first. They often wear the disguise of love, friendship, or support. But beneath the surface, they are carefully constructed strategies to create imbalance. where you slowly carry more responsibility for the other person's feelings than for your own well-being. Carl Jung warned, "What you fail to bring into consciousness appears in your life as fate." If you don't recognize these unconscious patterns, both in others and in yourself, you risk repeating painful emotional cycles endlessly. The first step, then, is developing compassionate but ruthless awareness, to observe without judgment but with absolute clarity. This is not about hating or vilifying those who act in manipulative ways. Most often they too are prisoners of their own unresolved pain. But compassion does not mean exposure. You can understand someone's suffering without letting it consume you. You can empathize without self-sacrifice. You can love someone, or have loved them, and still acknowledge that the relationship has become toxic for your growth. Learning to recognize these signs is an act of radical self-respect. It is choosing to honor your own life, your time, your energy. And once you begin to see these patterns, a new question emerges. How do you protect yourself without closing off your heart to the world? Because the solution isn't building impenetrable walls. The solution is developing conscious, flexible boundaries. Boundaries that allow you to stay open to connection while staying loyal to yourself. And that's exactly what we'll explore next, because guarding your energy is only part of the equation. Understanding how to navigate relationships with clear boundaries is how you ensure that you remain whole, empowered, and free, no matter who you encounter along your path. When you start recognizing hidden manipulation and energetic drains, the natural next step is to protect yourself. But there's a common mistake many people make. They swing from being too open to becoming completely closed. They build thick emotional walls, trust no one, and retreat from connection. Altogether, this isn't true protection. It's fear wearing armor. Carl Jung taught that true strength doesn't come from shutting the world out. It comes from facing life with conscious awareness and maintaining inner alignment, no matter what energies surround you. Real protection isn't about isolation. It's about boundaries. Clear, conscious, living boundaries that honor both your needs and the humanity of others. Boundaries are not punishments. They're agreements you make with yourself about what you will and won't allow in your emotional, mental, and energetic space. And here's the beautiful truth. The stronger your boundaries, the freer your heart becomes. You don't have to shut down your kindness. You don't have to silence your compassion. You simply stop abandoning yourself in the process of loving others. So how do you create healthy, powerful boundaries in a world full of unconscious behaviors? First, you must trust your internal signals. When you feel discomfort around someone, when your energy shrinks, when you start doubting yourself, when confusion becomes your default state, believe yourself. You don't need permission to honor what your body and emotions are telling you. Second, practice saying no, early and often. Many people wait until they are exhausted, overwhelmed, or resentful before setting boundaries. By then, the damage is already done. Healthy boundaries are proactive, not reactive. You don't set them because you're angry. You set them because you love yourself. And here's something critical. You do not owe long explanations for your boundaries. You don't need to justify your feelings. You don't have to convince others that your limits are reasonable. A boundary is a statement, not a debate. For example, I'm not available for that conversation right now. I need some time to myself today. I'm not comfortable with that. Short, clear, respectful, no drama needed. If someone genuinely respects you, they will honor your boundaries, even if they don't fully understand them. If someone pushes back, guilts you, or tries to argue, that's a loud signal that your boundary was necessary. Third, recognize that guilt is part of the healing process. When you first start setting boundaries, you might feel guilty. You might hear voices in your head saying, "You're being selfish, you're letting people down, you're making a big deal out of nothing." Understand, that guilt is not proof you're doing something wrong. It's proof that you're breaking old conditioning. Conditioning that taught you to put others' comfort ahead of your own well-being. Let the guilt come. Acknowledge it, but don't let it control you. Over time, the guilt fades and is replaced by something far more powerful: self-trust. Fourth, stay rooted in your own center. Manipulative individuals often try to knock you off balance by appealing to your emotions. Guilt, fear, obligation, pity. They create emotional noise, hoping you'll get disoriented and revert back to old patterns. The antidote is stillness. When someone pushes your boundaries, don't immediately react. Pause, breathe, return to your center. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What do I need to stay true to myself? Am I being asked to betray myself to make someone else comfortable? By anchoring yourself internally, you stay free externally. Fifth, understand that boundaries will cost you some relationships, and that's okay. Not everyone will accept the new, healthier version of you. Some people were attached not to you, but to the version of you that tolerated their unconscious behavior. When you stop tolerating it, they may distance themselves, criticize you, or even try to pull you back into old dynamics. Let them go. It's painful, yes, but it's also profoundly liberating. You are not responsible for carrying relationships that only exist through your self-abandonment. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and becoming who you truly are requires courage. It requires discernment. It requires the willingness to disappoint others, rather than betray yourself. Every boundary you set is a vote for your future self, a vote for clarity, a vote for peace, a vote for authentic connection with yourself and with others who are capable of meeting you at your true level. Boundaries are not walls to keep love out. They are gates that allow the right love to enter. The world doesn't need more people who tolerate toxicity in the name of kindness. The world needs more people who live with fierce compassion, for themselves first and then for others. Protecting your energy, honoring your truth, and living with conscious boundaries isn't selfish. It's an act of deep spiritual maturity. It's what allows you to walk through life open, strong, awake, and free. In the next part, we'll conclude this journey by exploring how integrating all these lessons can help you build a life of emotional freedom, authentic relationships, and true inner power, because you were not born to live entangled in manipulation. You were born to live wide awake, fiercely alive, and fully yourself. If you don't learn to recognize hidden manipulation, someone else will keep writing the chapters of your story, and you won't even realize it until it's too late. Every day you ignore your intuition, you hand your power to someone who doesn't deserve it. Wake up. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing to the channel as a way of showing gratitude. It helps us continue sharing these important insights and reminds you that you're not alone on this journey toward deeper awareness and real freedom.